You see, most people live as though life is something they must conquer, as if every moment must be managed, every detail controlled. But for those whom God has chosen, their journey is of a different nature entirely. There's a curious thing about being chosen. It isn't earned, it isn't negotiated, it simply is. And when you realize that, you begin to see how foolish worry really is. Because if you were called by something greater, then doesn't it follow that you're also carried by something greater? You were never meant to fund your own calling. That's not your job. Your job is to align, not to strive. You're not some abandoned creature clawing for survival. You are, in fact, a vessel being filled moment by moment, even when it looks like nothing's happening. So stop worrying. God is already funding your life. But the payment isn't in panic or pressure, it's in presence. And that is where the miracle begins. You were never meant to control everything. That's the great cosmic joke, you see. Human beings, especially the ones who feel called or chosen, often fall into the trap of believing that their destiny must be executed by their own hands alone. They think, if I don't make it happen, it won't happen. But that is precisely the illusion. You are not the sole architect of your life. You are a collaborator in something far more vast and intelligent than the mind can grasp. Life moves like a river. It twists, turns, sometimes flows gently and sometimes with a thunderous rush. You cannot dictate its course, but you can choose whether you resist it or flow with it. Now, the chosen ones, the ones marked by something divine, are not those who build dams and force the water. They are the ones who learn to float. And floating, paradoxically, requires trust. It's not passivity, but a kind of active surrender. A realization that while you do have to move your limbs, you are ultimately being carried. To be chosen by God is not merely a label of honor. It is a responsibility to unlearn control and to step into flow. Control is rooted in fear. It's the anxious grasping that says, I must secure my future or all will fall apart. But God does not call people only to leave them stranded. God funds what He initiates. The same Spirit that whispered the purpose into your soul already made provision for the path ahead. And yet, how many times do you fall into the anxiety trap, trying to micromanage outcomes, worrying about the next bill, the next door, the next opportunity? Worry is simply the ego's way of telling you that you are alone. But you're not. You've never been. Look closely and you'll see it. Those strange coincidences. Those moments when you didn't know how something would work out and somehow it did. That wasn't random. That was the river. The irony is that the more you try to control, the more things slip through your fingers. Life has a way of humbling the obsessive planner. But when you begin to let go, not in defeat but in trust, you begin to notice how things fall into place without your desperate interference. The right people show up. The resources appear. The timing becomes uncanny. Why? Because you're no longer fighting the current. You might be thinking, but if I don't worry, how will things get done? And that's the voice of the false self, the one that believes your value is tied to your hustle. But understand this: to be chosen is to be part of a rhythm that existed before you were born. You're not here to push the river. You're here to remember you're in it. And it's going somewhere beautiful. So perhaps today is the day you stop flailing and start floating. Stop trying to fund your future with fear and effort, and realize that God, who called you, is already sustaining you. Not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. He's the wind in your lungs, the stillness in your storm, the whisper behind your courage. There is a peace that comes when you finally accept that you're not the one holding it all together. God is. And that realization, that is freedom, that is flow. And that, my friend, is faith. Your needs are already known by the one who called you. This is perhaps the most quietly profound truth, and yet so easily forgotten in a world that teaches you to panic before you trust. But understand, when God gives purpose, He also gives provision. It's not a transaction you earn, it's a relationship you awaken to. The moment you were marked for something greater, the moment you felt the divine pull toward a life of meaning and calling, the resources attached to that assignment were already set in motion. You see, the ego tells you that you must scramble, beg, and outperform others to survive. It whispers that you are running out of time, running out of energy, and running out of options. But that voice is not the voice of God. That is the voice of fear pretending to be logic. Real provision doesn't flow from panic. It flows from alignment. When you are walking in the path of your true purpose, doors open not because you kicked them down, but because they were waiting for you to arrive. The world measures provision in numbers, bank accounts, assets, materials. But heaven's economy operates differently. God provides through moments of divine favor, connections you couldn't have planned, and ideas that carry more value than any paycheck. When you are aligned with your purpose, even your smallest steps echo with power. You begin to realize that you're not surviving on money, you're surviving on meaning. You're being carried by a truth that transcends what you can see in the moment. And yet, how often do you still find yourself panicking when things don't appear immediately? There's a strange illusion that says, if it's not here now, it won't come. But time is not your master. God doesn't deal in panic. He works in precision. The delay you fear is not a denial, it's a preparation. If you received everything you needed before you were ready, it would crush you. So the waiting, the stillness, the silence, those are not punishments. They are strategy. You're being built to hold the blessing you've been asking for. You must understand something deeper. Provision is not always material. Sometimes it's peace in the middle of confusion. Sometimes it's clarity when everyone else is losing their minds. Sometimes it's a sudden burst of strength at the exact moment you thought you had nothing left to give. God provides what's needed, not what's wanted. He's not a vending machine. He's a composer orchestrating your life like a symphony where even the pauses carry meaning. You don't need to perform for God's provision. You only need to walk with Him. Purpose is the true magnet for provision. People chase money hoping to buy a purpose, but the chosen ones carry a purpose that draws provision to them. You don't hustle to earn your identity. You rest in the truth that your identity brings everything you need into alignment. So stop running to catch something that's already been sent ahead of you. You don't need to scream to be heard in heaven. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. The moment you were chosen, a divine guarantee was written into your life. Not one that promises ease, but one that promises you will always have what you truly need when you truly need it. Let this be your calm. Let this be your strength. Panic is noise. Purpose is melody. And you, chosen one, were not created to chase survival. You were created to carry destiny. And where there is destiny, there will always be provision. Worry is the mind's refusal to trust God's timing. It is the silent storm that rages behind your thoughts, always whispering, what if it doesn't happen? What if I fail? What if I'm forgotten? But those questions, though loud and relentless, are born from a misunderstanding of who's really in control. You see, when you try to live tomorrow today, you rob the present of its peace and you miss the quiet miracles unfolding right now. The chosen ones, those marked by a divine calling, are not immune to worry. In fact, because your calling is great, the temptation to panic is even greater. But worry doesn't come from your spirit, it comes from your mind, which has been conditioned by the world to believe that speed equals success and delay means denial. But that isn't how God works. His timing is not your timing. His ways are not your ways. And yet, His timing is always perfect, even when your understanding is not. What you must realize is this: God is never late. He is not slow, nor is He unaware. The tension you feel in the waiting is not a sign that He has forgotten you. It's a sign that you're growing. It's the stretch of faith, the expansion of your soul, the forming of character that can carry the weight of your destiny. Worry tries to escape this moment in search of a future you cannot control. But trust brings you back to now. And now is the only place where God meets you. You worry because you imagine futures without grace. You project scenarios in which God disappears at the moment you need Him most. But that's not truth. It's imagination fueled by fear. Think of it, how many times have you been on the edge, not knowing how things would turn out, and yet somehow you were held, somehow you made it through. That wasn't luck. That was timing, divine timing. But in the moment it felt like silence. It felt like delay. And yet, looking back, you see it now. You were being protected, positioned, and prepared. To trust God's timing is to let go of the false urgency the world tries to place on your shoulders. Everyone is rushing. Everyone is racing. But chosen ones are called to a different rhythm. You are not late. You are not behind. You are right on time for your journey. The only question is, can you be present enough to recognize it? Can you stop rehearsing what could go wrong long enough to see what's already going right? Worry is a thief. It steals your sleep, your joy, your creativity. But even more than that, it steals your awareness of God's nearness. Because when you are busy worrying, you're not listening. You're not sensing. You're not receiving. You're trying to do in your own strength what only divine timing can fulfill. And that is exhausting. But there is another way. The invitation is simple: breathe. Come back to now. This moment. Yes? This very one is already filled with the resources you need. Perhaps not everything you want, but everything you need to take the next step, to stay grounded, to remain faithful. God doesn't give you the whole staircase. He gives you the next step, and then the next. But worry tries to see the top, tries to demand a map before it moves. Trust moves with the mystery. So, what if today you stopped rehearsing failure and started expecting provision? What if you believe that God is not just preparing your future, but preparing you for that future? What if the delay is actually a divine safeguard? You see, nothing good happens before its time. And for the chosen ones, God's timing is never rushed, never delayed, but always aligned. You're not waiting alone, you're being refined. Trust the timing. The present moment isn't just where life happens. It's where God shows up. And in that space, worry has no power. God's currency is favor, not finance. This is one of the most freeing truths a person can realize, especially those who have been chosen for something greater than the ordinary. You've been taught that provision comes through effort, that success is measured in numbers. How much you have, how fast you gained it, how well you've kept it. But God doesn't fund your life based on worldly systems. He provides through favor, through unseen hands arranging things behind the scenes, through doors that open without explanation, and opportunities that no resume could earn. Favor is when someone recommends you without knowing why. It's when you walk into a room you weren't even supposed to be in, and yet you're the one everyone turns toward. It's when your name is brought up in places you've never been. That's divine currency. That's the kind of support money can't buy. The world can give you a paycheck, but only God can give you favor. And when you are chosen, favor follows you not because you forced it, but because you're aligned with your assignment. You see, finance alone can't fulfill a divine calling. Money is a tool, but favor is a key. One opens wallets, the other opens destinies. And so many people are chasing money to feel secure, while God is saying, if you just follow what I've placed in you, the favor will find you. When you walk in your purpose, the provision that fits your journey appears. Not all at once, but perfectly timed. It may not make sense on paper, but it will be undeniable in experience. Favor is quiet. It doesn't always announce itself. It shows up in moments where things could have gone wrong, but didn't. It shows up when you get a yes you didn't expect, or when rejection becomes redirection. That job you lost, it was favor protecting you from being planted in the wrong soil. That opportunity that slipped through your fingers, it was favor steering